Williamson is 10 times the world champion. Bax and Stupilis, they've done it again. Unbelievable. Marvin van Lukener certainly deserves the red plate. And what an incredible sport this is. Fast, high and spectacular. Unbelievable.
Hello again, Sidecarcross friends and fans. We're here in the Pilsen region of the Czech Republic for round 4 of the World Sidecarcross Championship 2019. You've all heard of Pilsner beer. Well, it comes from here. We're actually near the medieval town of Nepomuk, where the silence is about to be shattered.
For round 4, we were in KRAMOLIN, Czech Republic. This weekend was incredible, guys. So much action. Qualifying day, we had unexpected rain all day. Teams had the hardest time. The track was difficult, but they fought. And there were so many surprises, you won't even believe it. And Sunday race day, oh my God, so much action. Teams fought for those important points. Who got the red plate? For that, you'll have to watch this show and find out yourself.
The opening round kicked off in Lommel, Belgium, in typical going. The deep sand, as normal, proved to be a real challenge, and in these conditions, even the best are caught out sometimes. One of those top guns to fall victim was Julian Veldman.
We had a big crash on the place where we passed Daniel Willemsen in the first heat. We touched him with the sidecar wheel on his rear wheel, and it was a crash with full speed, so it was a big crash.
Another crew in trouble were Bax and Stupilis.
We made a crash, we made a pretty bad flip, we lose so much positions. 2 laps before end we are in the 6th position and we try to catch Giraud and Sanders, but I don't remember what exactly happened, but I fell out once again. In end of the day, we win the 2nd moto, and that was a great feeling again.
Then it was off to Talavera de la Reina in Spain for round 2. Victory went to Valentin Giraud and his new German passenger, Andres Haller.
I won my first heat and that was awesome. And yeah, it's really nice to do that, and it gives a feeling of, yeah, I want more of this.
But there was no more. In race 2, with smoke and steam everywhere on the final lap, it was game over.
We was on the way to the podium, but on the last lap we had an engine problem.
Well, he was not on his own. Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax were also in the wars.
After the big table jumps, we want to try to brake, but there was nothing, so yeah, then you're always too late. And then we got a big crash actually, that was real.
We lose 10 points, but finally on the end of the day I think we need to be happy. We are again on the podium on the sand track.
That was really cool, and it was for us a long time ago that we had a double victory. Yeah, you know, we don't want to give that away anymore.
Well, coming here to KRAMOLIN, this is how they lined up. That 10-point lead at the top for Etienne Bax and Casper Stupelis over the reigning champions. Double winners here last year, Van Luken and Van den Bogart. Willemsen, the old warhorse, he's there in third, going strongly. Koen Hermans, runner-up last year. He and Nicolas Mousset sit in fourth. I'll tell you who is going well. Zeno Compolati in 11th there, the Italian crew. Going further down the order, young Jake Brown's had a cracking start to the season. He's there in 13th. George Kinge as well. We've got 14 rounds across 10 countries, and the KRAMOLIN track is the scene for round 4. The 1600-metre track has plenty of thrills, hopefully not too many spills. It's in a very pretty part of the countryside, and it's been in use for decades.
Hi, welcome to the track here in KRAMOLIN. As you can see, we are back onto the hard pack tracks. This track, just over 1600 metres in length, is hard pack, very hard pack. Also, a lot of elevation changes. We have 3 different levels. The top level has the start, this middle section has a tabletop, and these 2 big downhill jumps. Going down to the far end of the circuit before they come back up, the 3 elevation changes back up to the start. It's fast, it's furious, and it will be brilliant.
Well, let's hope so, Steve, but after free practice, the rains came down, and I mean proper rain. The crews knew what to expect because they've done it all before.
We did 2 good practices today, and yeah, I can say I enjoy the track, and I'm quite confident. The bike working good. Since the beginning of the season, we struggled a little bit with the seating of the engine, but this week we went training in Czech Republic and make some testing with Mega Factory, and now we find a very good seating, and I'm happy with the bike, and I enjoy driving now.
Track conditions, well, the pictures tell the story, and doing a bit of paddling and beachcombing, Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset pretty much summed up the thoughts of everyone out there.
Yeah, we are feeling good today. Now it's not good that it's raining. With the free practice, the weather was good, the track was good. With the pre-qualifying, the first 2 laps it was good, but then the rain was starting really hard. So yeah, we couldn't make a fast lap again. Still second with the time, so it's good. I hope it will be dry, but I think it's going rain all day. So that's not so good, but we will make the best.
Everyone full of trepidation, and alongside number 28 Jake Brown and Joe Millard, the number 16 Belgian veteran Christoph Santemans and his young Lithuanian passenger Kostas Beletskas.
Yeah, in the moment feeling is good, but just from the last weekend we had I had a little bit small accident, but yeah, feeling is good. Hoping today to finish in top 5. Yeah, for us would be the best. But we will see how it will go, and my driver likes more muddy tracks, so should be good for us both.
Qualifying Group A got going in absolutely appalling track conditions. There was standing water everywhere, and everyone charged into the first turn, but it was the old master, Daniel Willemsen, with Luc Rostang, his French passenger, who took the whole shot from the Belgian Arnaud Dierkens. In third place, chasing hard just ahead of Giro, was the local Czech guy, Peter Kolenčík, the number 38 rider in the yellow shirt there. Giro chasing hard, everyone streaming down to where there was deep, deep water, and that would catch a few out, as you will see. Giro, though, was really pressing hard after the yellow-shirted number 38, but out in front, it was Willemsen with Arnaud Dierkens. Bax at this point, he and Stupelis were down in 7th place. Junior Verhulst, the first to fall victim to the deep water, but Willemsen was easing away at the front, just showing how well he can cope with any conditions, and boy, were these conditions bad in KRAMOLIN 2019. A complete contrast to when we were here 12 months ago, when it was dry, dusty and very, very fast. And in the bottom of this track as well, there are big stones, and as the circuit cut up with the mud and water, those big stones came to the top. But undeterred, the crews pressed on. Bax and Stupilis were very quickly up to third, with the leading pair in sight. Throwing it round the right-hander, as they would do time and time again, they then set after Arne Dierkens, and it became very much a battle between these two, because Willemsen and his passenger Luc Rostang, the French guy, were out in front. Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax, younger brother of the man chasing him, and they rode together in their earlier years. Willemsen was to go out with a mechanical failure in the most difficult place, right at the top of that little climb, coming out onto the start-finish straight. That bike needed to be moved, and it was very quickly. That left Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax out in front. But time and time again, Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis tried that inside line. 6 or 7 consecutive laps they tried that move, and as you will see, they eventually took enough speed over the jump to make it stick. They were pushing really hard. They tried again and again and again, and still they were denied. With a quick look over the right shoulder by the young Belgian Arne Dierkens, the number 10, who kept them at bay, but not forever, as you will see. Despite the mud the track was digging out, there was still hard going underneath in the ruts. That inside rut was becoming very, very bumpy. Bax often tried the outside one where the standing water was, and he and Kasper Stupilis kept the pressure on. They knew that in these conditions absolutely anything can happen, and we've said it time and time again in the world of sidecar motocross. It normally does. It was a good third place for the number 4 French-German pairing of Valentin Giraud, and they were steady in that place and holding strongly. In 4th place at this point was Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain. The battle at the front though raged, and it was at this point that Etienne Bax took enough speed to shut off the line for Arne Dierkens and claim the lead, from which he was never to look back in qualifying Group A. This would bring him home to take victory, and of course a very good start line choice for tomorrow's Grand Prix races. Dierkens and Robbie Bax, meanwhile, fought very hard, just kept the pressure on and kept going, but out in front, Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis were supreme. It was a leaden sky, rain was still falling. Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain, the number 888 crew, in 4th at this point. Chamberlain having already taken his goggles off, and you can see them there, throwing them away to a friendly face with the pit board, so that at least he doesn't lose the merchandise. He gets the goggles back at the end of the qualifying race. These riders have roll-offs and tear-offs, so they have films of perspex really over the goggles, but only a limited number of those, and when you're getting filled in as these riders were, and Brown's Husqvarna working beautifully here, then the goggles have to go. 4-stroke power, of course, very much an advantage in this sort of going. The Kusch brothers, another left-handed sidecar, they've been going well all season, and KRAMOLIN was no exception. They were pulling very, very strongly, chasing Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain, and would come home to a strong finish and a good start place for the Grand Prix races tomorrow. The field at this point was getting really quite strung out, as one would expect in these conditions, but even then the crews were jumping high and long. This little right-hander with the adverse camber proved to be tricky. There were 2 lines, but the inside line simply didn't work, and it was far too slippery to be able to get the power down and get round there quickly. Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis, though, supreme at the front, and underlining just how much the guy who came here with a 10-point championship lead wants that title back. Will it be title number 3 for Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis in 2019? Well, only time will tell, because we are 4 races in to a 14-round calendar. But victory it was for the current red plate holder, Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis, in qualifying Group A. Well, that's how they finished. Bax and Stupilis dominant, Giro, Brown, Diokins, they all had a good fight. The Kush boys were in there as well, but Etienne Bax victorious.
I knew that we could win this race, but we need to keep calm and wait for our chance. There was a point when I started to thought it was going to be sketchy because my gloves is so wet and I slip off of my handlebar a couple of times. And I felt that I'm almost on the end of my lemonade, so I knew that I needed to make the pass. We were quite lucky that Daniel was over there and he had technical problems. And yeah, we could overtake and finish our race. And yeah, I feel that in our engine there's water in. It's making a weird noise. So yeah, time for a checkup.
The track had got no better when Group B took to the line. The rain had still been falling and there was a lot of water on the straight, but Davy Sanders, number 9, he and Larry Kunis took an absolute flyer ahead of Marvin van Luckener, double winner here, but it wasn't long before van Luckener at the second bend swept into the lead. Anyone behind them was totally filled in. That water was still at the bottom. In fact, it was even deeper, leaving them just a line to go on the inside. If you went wide into that deep water, the two-stroke engine would suck it in and you would be in trouble. There was a wide line which some of the left-hand sidecars took to their advantage, but meanwhile Davy Sanders was away, Van Luckener was away out in front, and that's where he stayed. Marvin van Luckener and Ben van den Boogaard ahead of Sanders and Kunas. Compilati, the Italian, he and his French passenger Chopin had an absolutely cracking start. Koen-Hermans, Nicolas Mousset were in there. There you can see the yellow shirt of Compilati with Koen-Hermans and Nicolas Mousset trying that inside line which was digging ever deeper. The conditions for Group B qualifying had deteriorated significantly from the earlier race, and one wondered, would there even be a Grand Prix at all? Well, as it turned out, there was to be the most fantastic Grand Prix and two terrific races. Koen-Hermans and Nicolas Mousset got the better of the Compilati-Chopin duo, but credit to the Italian, he could ride any conditions and he showed his worth here. Hermans, number 2, time and time again tried that cambered line, and later on in the day he was to try the inside of that. Out in front though, relatively clean, Van Luckener and Van den Boogaard, the number 1 plate, desperate to get the red plate back, made a clean sweep of this one and showed a clean pair of heels, if that can be the right expression, to the rest of the pack. Davy Sanders and Larry Kunis behind them, chasing hard, but Van Luckener, every time he took that inside line, he hit the rocks, and you can see how the bike bucks there as they come out of there. The deep stones at the bottom of those ruts proving to be really, really hard work. Larry Kunis, the number 9 passenger, the young Finn, having clicked very well with Davy Sanders, and they have had a terrific season so far. But at the front, it was Van Luckener. Koen-Hermans was then charging his way up to see if he could make his way past Davy Sanders, and that would be the focus of this battle when the number 2 closed in. Christoph Santemans and Kostas Beletskas were victims of the deep stuff, and they were destined to fight their way in last chance, which they actually did. They got going again, but were later to retire, so it was last chance for them. Marvin van Luckener clear at the front. Compilati, the Italian, still chasing well, and he was making a really, really good fist of it, as I said earlier, showing that he can ride any conditions, the number 18 crew, the Italian-French pairing, and you can see just how deep those ruts were. Doesn't matter, it rapidly turned into a one-line track, apart from some of the left-hand chairs going down the bottom, and it was Jake Brown and Joe Millard to fall victim of the deep water. This time their engine was to take in water, it was never to start again, and sadly for the young British crew, their weekend was over. Davy Sanders and Larry Kunis meanwhile fighting hard in second. They had a bit of pressure because Koen-Hermans and Nicolas Mousset were closing visibly. It was about 8 bike lengths deeper into the qualifying race, Would Sanders hold on? Well, time would tell. Hermans, though, determined to close him down. The number 2, Hermans and Nicolas Mousset, anxious to score good points because they came here trailing just a little bit after some misfortune. Although having been a race winner early in the series, they've still got a good quantity of points. A bit of a shake of the head from Marvin van Lukener. He's wondering what on earth he did in the world to find himself here in these conditions. But again, the youngster, the reigning world champion, hence the number 1, showing what they can do. The vastly experienced Van den Bogart, as poor Jake Brown and Joe Millard try to push their bike back, because if there's any chance of going out in last chance, they have to get it back and get it cleaned up and fired up. But it was not to be for them. Success it was, though, for Marvin van Lukener and Ben van den Bogart, who really gave a first-class demonstration of riding in these dreadful conditions. The rain and clouds still hanging over the KRAMOLIN track, and it was cold, about 6 degrees and a biting wind. Not for these guys, though. They are warm, possibly perspiring, but on their way to a very creditable victory in Group B qualifying. You just never knew, though, what lay round the corner. Interesting that Ben van den Bogart had a little bum pack there with what I suspect was a spare pair of goggles, just in case he needed them. Or maybe it was a towel, you never know. But the checker flag went out for Marvin van Lukener and Ben van den Bogart. Victory it was in Group B qualifying for them, so they would line up alongside Etienne Bax in the hot seat for the races. Davy Sanders brought it home in second place. Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset appearing over the jump, and here they are. The number 2 riders then having settled for that third. That was where they finished, having dropped back quite a bit from the second place Sanders and Kunas. Third place it was. Confirmation: Van Lukener, Sanders, Hermans, Compilati, brilliant in fourth, Blank, Czerny, the Czech guy, Pozzi, Hodges, Lagermat, and Adrian Petter.
Start, we go on second in the first corner, and we pass them very fast, and yeah, we gone leading all the race. Yeah, the track was very difficult, but I'm very happy with this win. It's important for tomorrow to the gate.
Ben, I see you've lost your goggles somewhere. I mean, how did you manage?
Yeah, sometimes you can, when you close your eyes, then the mud goes out of your eyes. But yeah, when the mud is full, when the goggles is full, yeah, then you must take it off. And I saw the gap behind us, and I said, okay, we can do it now. It's no problem.
We were looking for 6 riders from last chance, and there were some pretty high-profile names in there, not least of all Daniel Willemsen. You saw him retire from the qualifying Group A, so he found himself in there, as indeed did Christophe Santemans. But Willemsen made no mistake. He knew, though, whatever he did in last chance, he'd be starting from the back row in the Grand Prix races tomorrow, but he made no mistake. Starting list confirmed: Bax, Van Lukener, they're the quick guys, Dierkin, Sanders, Giraud, Hermans, Brown, they're all up there. Compilati, what a time he's having. Christophe Kuch with his brother Maxime, Blank completing the top 10. Further down the order, Koiben, Czerny, the local guy, Van Verven, Pozzi, Riesner, the Estonians, Michael Hodges for Great Britain, Heinzer, Van Lagermat, Hoffmann, and Adrian Peter, the young German, with Zatlukal, the Czech. Welcome back to a very soggy KRAMOLIN. The worst of the rain had passed through, but the track was still very muddy, and only the bravest crews ventured out in morning warm-up. Most of them turned out for the riders' presentation, though, as did the FIM representative Rodrigo Castro. This is when the stars get to meet their fans, and the fans get up close and personal with them. However, there's no doubt the damp weather did affect the mood. Although Arno Dierkins and Robbie Bax had no problem meeting their public, After that, it was off for those last-minute preparations and the modifications needed to keep the water out. That's always the secret. And an extra bit of tape round the airbox simply works wonders.
Yeah, the track this morning was better than we expected. There was no water on the track, so the track crew made a good job. It was just a bit, muddy, but I think if it stops raining that we can have a few lines and then it will be good, yeah.
One of those obliged to take a look in morning warm-up was Daniel Willemsen. He and Luke Rostang dominated last chance, but imagine being on the back row in these conditions. But as professional as ever, he was going to give himself every single chance.
We had some bad luck yesterday with the engine, and we win the last chance. That means we can go on the second line as ninth. So like a second line starting today, and so we had to warm up this morning. We have to search for lines to pass, and yesterday and this morning we had very good times. We feeling comfortable on this track, but yeah, from second line starting is not so good to begin this race. It's very muddy, and so we had to find some new lines and spoors. It will be very difficult to pass.
But firmly on the front row with 6th place in Group A qualifying, the number 17 young Dutch pair, Justin Koiben and Dion Rietman.
Track is pretty good, the race line. It's dry, it's good for riding, but don't come out the line, then it's a big problem. But I think if they put a little bit work on the track, it's no problem for today.
And then the rain came down again. And it kept on raining. Everyone was apprehensive. Well, you would be, wouldn't you? You could see how soggy the ground was. However immaculately they were turned out, they were soon to be very brown and muddy indeed. But, as the saying goes, it is the same for everyone. And that's always, always something that the riders have in their minds. If it's bad for me, it's bad for the others. Tension, always tension. Bax and Stupilis, no exception, the ultimate professionals. "30 crews in 2 rows then, awaiting the start of race 1 into the closing seconds. The 5-lap board goes, watch the gate, and it drops towards them. Everyone's safely over that gate. Just imagine what it was like on the back row. Christoph Santomans we saw in the red shirt getting absolutely filled in. But getting a flying start up front was the number 10 outfit of Arne Djerkens from Marvin van Lukenen, and Davy Sanders, Larry Kunas were in there at the 3rd place and charging. A few stragglers at the back having problems, but Arne Djerkens, who'd been going so strongly through qualifying and looking so good, was putting it to good use here as well in race 1. Not such a good start for Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis. They found themselves in 6th place fighting round, but it wasn't long before they were on the inside of Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain, who were leaping the Husqvarna 4-stroke ahead of them. Bax, though, knew that he had to get by the British crew, in fact, get by everybody he could. They kissed sidecar wheels momentarily, but Bax was then through. The Husqvarna of Stuart Brown pulling up on the outside line. Out in front, Arne Djerkens giving a good account for himself with Marvin van Lukenen hard in pursuit. Robbie Bax, Arne Djerkens' passenger, very, very accomplished, very experienced, and these two ride well together. They get on well together socially, which is also very, very important. Sidecarcross is something of a family event, but of course, most of all, it's a team event. It's 2 people on 3 wheels working in unison and doing a good job together. Arne Djerkens and Robbie Bax doing exactly that, as indeed were the crew chasing them, Marvin van Lukenen and Ben van den Bogart. These 2 crews eked out a significant advantage over the Italian Compilati number 18, who had a brilliant start getting the better of Davy Sanders. Bax was still down there
in 6th place. Van Lukenen making a flying leap over that brave jump. That's almost a death-defying jump. You have to go for it, and he did. At that point, Van Lukenen was in the lead, and there was no looking back for him. This was a track on which Marvin Van Lukenen and Ben van den Boogaard had 2 victories in 2018. It was Compilati, Sanders, Etienne Bax was closing in, and suddenly making their presence felt Koen Hermans and Nicolas Musset, the number 2 outfit. So we had these 4 outfits really circulating on a track which, it's fair to say, only had 1 line. And that is what Daniel Willemsen was saying in his interview, that the track in this condition has really 1 line, and it's very difficult to pass. So he'll be making his way up from a 2nd row start. At this moment in time, he was in 16th place and forcing hard. So in the points already, Daniel Willemsen, but these guys were going for the big points. Etienne Bax and Casper Stupilis, 82, right there at the chasing pack at the front of this. In 3rd place, Compilati and Chopin, and underneath Compilati and Chopin went the number 9 of Davy Sanders and Larry Kunas, and suddenly right with them were Bax and Stupilis. So the Italian, brave his fight was slipping back. Bastien Chopin, the French passenger, looking over his shoulder. They were in distinguished company at this sharp end of the race, and they've been getting better and better and better all through the season. Davy Sanders as well, another man who's really been flying this year. Bax then closing on the back of the Italian. It would not be long before Etienne Bax, twice a world champion, made his way past the Compilati Chopin pairing, the number 18, but they weren't going to give up easily, and they were on the racing line. That's the line Etienne Bax wanted. This is the line that he favoured lap after lap, and he made it stick. Comes out wide, closes the door, and that's another place gone, and it's put the Italian between himself and the chasing Koen Hermans. Koen Hermans and Nicolas Musset, who've been having a very good ride here in KRAMOLIN in these adverse conditions. They were soon past the Italian-French pairing in pursuit of Etienne Bax and Casper Stupilis, who were now in 3rd place. Ahead of them, Arne Djerkins, and at the sharp end, right at the front, Marvin Van Lukenen and Ben van den Boogaard. Valentin Giraud and Andres Haller, the number 4 crew, going very well indeed. They were to bring it through and finish up in 6th place, so running very consistently with his new Mega 2-stroke power engine. Valentin Giraud looking a class act, which of course he is, having cut his teeth in 125cc Grand Prix, ridden a solo very successfully before turning to 3 wheels. Very different technique, of course, although racing motocross is racing motocross, whether it be 2 wheels or 3. The chasing bunch still very close together, but out in front it was Marvin Van Lukenen and Ben van den Boogaard, showing a clean pair of heels to the chasing pack, and they had pulled out a distinctly strong advantage over Arne Djerkins in 2nd place. Bax was still trying to close down Davy Sanders and Larry Kunas, the number 9 outfit, and by now they were well and truly among the back markers. And back markers were always difficult when you've only got 1 racing line, and that's exactly the situation we had here in KRAMOLIN race 1, and as it transpired, very much the same situation in race 2 later in the afternoon. If you go off the racing line, there was mud to be seen on the wide part of the course, and you can see that clearly. Anything but the racing line, which was dry in actual fact, was very difficult to pass on. But it was almost kicking up dust, it dried through so quickly. It's a hillside track here, and it drains very well. Compilati was still in touch. Marvin Van Lukenen and Ben van den Boogaard looking supreme out in front for the checkered flag to take victory in race 1. and it was some time before Arne Dierkens came over the crest of the hill to take second place. Victory to Van Luken and Ben van den Boogaard. This chase went on. Bax was unable to do anything other than hold on to that fourth place, but still strong points. Anything is better than being further down the order. Second place for Dierkens and Robbie Bax. There it is confirmed. Van Luken, Dierkens, Davy Sanders rode terrifically well to hold on to third ahead of Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupeless. But was second good enough for Arne Dierkens?
He took a good start, like you said, and then Robbie and I had immediately a good pace. But Marvin came behind us, and I felt he was a little bit stronger. So I passed him and I followed a bit his lines, but he was faster. And then I thought we could easy take the second place, but we get stuck a bit after lap traffic, and the place 3, 4, 5 came in our real wheel. But we managed to keep get to the end, and I'm super happy for the team that finally we had a good result, yes.
Koen Hermans had a great ride as well. Etienne Bax won't be happy with fourth, but Giraud, solid points. Everyone very pensive ahead of race 2 because they know full well what lies ahead and just how tough the next race is going to be. All clean, all presentable, change of uniform. The countdown begins. Race 2 is just around the corner. Can Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupeless make it a top 3 finish? They need it. And so does Marvin van Luken. Don't they all? Race 2 got underway. One of the gates stuck up further down the field. And let me tell you that in race 1, Daniel Willemsen from the back row made his way to finish 10th, which was a phenomenal achievement. This time, though, it was Davy Sanders, number 9, getting an absolutely blistering start to head the pack round the first turn. Was he still in front going down the back? Well, we were about to see. Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax, another great start for them as the pack sorted itself out round that bottom bend. Anyone who went in the deep stuff was in deep, deep trouble. You saw it time and time again. If you went wide, you were in the mud. The tried and tested line was the way to go, and that is the way most of the crews preferred to stay, picking their moment on the bends to go past. Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain were ahead of Compilati and Chopin this time out. Davy Sanders, Larry Kunas were ahead of Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset. Marvin van Luken did not have such a good start and found himself behind Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupeless, which was exactly what Etienne Bax wanted. His championship lead had diminished, but Marvin van Luken was determined and brave over the jumps and quickly went by. That was not a happy scenario, but Bax had a problem. You will see throughout the race Bax looking down into the sidecar. He and Kasper Stupeless had a mechanical problem. It was difficult to determine early in the race what that problem was from a spectator's standpoint, but let me tell you, it turned out to be a split exhaust pipe, and Bax was later to fall foul of the regulations. He was not to know that at this point in the race, though, so he was forcing on with that split exhaust, somewhat noisy, and of course it would have been affecting the power of the engine. Marvin van Luken, meanwhile, was charging. Arne Dierkens was charging at the head of the pack. Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset were charging alongside. And we had a 12-wheeler at this point with Davy Sanders and Larry Kunas, the number 9 crew, at the sharp end. Right behind them, it was Van Luken and Van den Boogaard with Hermans and Mousset almost in tow. You could have got them all in the back of an Arctic at this stage in the race, and it was just the most fantastic entertainment. Valentin Giraud was also having a good ride. Marvin van Lukener on that outside line time and time again, almost through Ben van den Bogart out of the sidecar. There were big rocks coming through in the bottom of the ruts, and that played havoc with the passengers. Hermans pulled a master stroke on Davy Sanders on the right-hander and shot through to assume a stronger position now behind race leader Arne Dierkens. Hermans was looking really, really threatening, and now at the back of that quartet, it was Van Lukener with Van den Bogart again holding on for grim death. While all this was going on, Daniel Willemsen was making his way through the field, and at this stage he was already up to 15th place and charging. At the front though, Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax were leading this freight train of activity. There were the ruts, the deep bumps, the big stones in the bottom. Koen Hermans alongside. Could he make it stick on this right-hander? He'd have to get the inside line. Was this fast enough? But Dierkens driving around the outside, held on to the lead, and what's more, Van Lukener and Van den Bogart went with him, relegating Koen Hermans ahead of Davy Sanders, but into third place. Van Lukener and Van den Bogart were on a charge. This was where they were strong. Down the hill, off this jump, they were so brave, and this line was a tricky one, but still Arne Dierkens kept the advantage going up the hill. He'd have to go very, very tight in all the bends because Van Lukener would be looking for every single chink in his armour and every single opportunity to go by. Still Dierkens hung on. Next to put him under pressure, Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset were suddenly on a charge. They were diving through, and they went past underneath Dierkens. There was a lot of pushing between Bax and Davy Sanders. Etienne Bax got the better of the Belgian Sanders and moved into fourth place. Next on his hit list would be Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax, and he was closing in on them as well. Van Lukener and Van den Bogart were away up the road, but they were to have problems dropping them back just a little bit because the quick man out there, the quick pair out there, Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset, were absolutely flying. Arne Dierkens looking good though. Robbie Bax doing his utmost to hold that sidecar down, bucking and weaving, getting the drive down in the rut and keeping the sidecar wheel down when it threatened to pop up. Davy Sanders and Larry Kunis got second win, and there was a real coming together where they went in hard, and Kasper Stupelis was not impressed at all, almost had his arm round the neck of Davy Sanders, looking back, shaking his fist, waving his arms. So the Latvian not impressed one bit. Peter Kolenchik, the local Czech rider, got a dose of the Arne Dierkens medicine as they came round to lap him, but Kolenchik had acquitted himself really well here. But of course, tail enders always prove to be a problem, and in this case it was Davy Sanders who fell foul of Kolenchik, and Etienne Bax made hay while the sun shone momentarily there and slid through underneath Arne Dierkens. Koen Hermans, though, was out front, having caught and passed Marvin van Lukener, who was fiddling with the right-hand side of his handlebar, clearly with that problem I spoke about. It was actually turning out to be a front brake issue, and here, of course, you need all your brakes and more. So Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset were charging on when the two-lap board came out. They were in control here, the Czech flags waving for Kolenchik, but it was Koen Hermans flying. Now look at that massive crash, and that was Kelly De Bruyne and Jens Mans as they came round the start-finish straight. Huge crash. They are both, as it happens, okay. Some injury to Jens Mans, we believe, yet to be confirmed, but Kelly De Bruyne okay, as over the line went Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset to take victory number 2 in the 2019 season for them, and they march on in the points. Etienne Bax it was coming home in third place, Van Lukener second, But Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupis were later to be penalised 5 places for failing the noise test with that broken exhaust. They were to drop to 8th. So all that hard work not entirely in vain, but they were not best pleased. Confirmation then, Hermans from Van Lukenen, Arne Dierkens, Sanders 4th, Giro 5th from Brown, Heinze, Bax down there in 8th place as a result of that penalty ahead of Compolati. Willemsen recovered again to 10th. So it's 3rd overall for Hermans and Museeuw.
Feeling really good. The start was now good. Yeah, we had to start on the 3rd place, but yeah, first we did make a mistake, so Van Lukenen passed us, and yeah, then we can fight back, and yeah, we win this race. So yeah, we are really happy.
2nd overall, Robbie Bax, the passenger, of course. Arne Dierkens, the immensely talented driver, receiving their beautiful awards. Good job, well done.
We was many weeks actually far away from the podium, and it feels good to be back on the podium actually. It gives so much motivation to go on to the next week.
But overall victory here for the 2nd year in a row. Marvin Van Lukenen, Ben van den Boogaard. They take the red plate to Kiev in the Ukraine for round 5.
The second race was not a good start, and with this track it's not so easy to pass the teams, but yeah, we did it. But yeah, we're coming on the lead, and halfway the front brake was gone, and then we lose 1 place, but yeah, we have the overall win and the red plate.
So that's how the standings look. On top of the pile now, Van Lukenen and Van den Boogaard on 167. Bax now 6 points behind them, 161. Hermans has moved up on 144. Willemsen, 2 10th places, amazing. Still there 4th ahead of Davy Sanders. Brown and Giro are level on points. Dierkens up to 100. And further down the order, all the guys are in there fighting, and they will keep that spirit going all the way to Kiev. Round 5 coming up then from the Ukraine. This is from me, Barry Nutley. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We've certainly enjoyed it. The conditions were adverse, but from all of us here in KRAMOLIN, thanks for watching and bye-bye.
Some men see a path that was laid out before them and ask why. I dream of a path that never was and ask why not. We never stop, still going when you finish. And even when we bleed, still believe that we can win this. We got what's underneath, you're all about that image. We never even stop at the top, no limits. Champions, and we're the champions. And we're the champions. And we're the champions. So bring it on.
Willemsen is 10 times the world champion. Bax and Stupis, they've done it again. Unbelievable. Marvin Van Lukenen certainly deserves the red plate. And what an incredible sport this is. Fast, high and spectacular. Unbelievable.